Good evening, everyone. It is November the 16th. This is On Sound City Council. We had a closed session that started at 6 p.m. tonight. During the closed session, council reviewed minutes of the closed session, the regular council meeting held on November 2nd, 2020, and minutes of the closed session of the special council meeting held on November 6th, 2020. City Council discussed one matter regarding labor relations and employee negotiations and a position plan, procedure, criteria, instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality respecting the city department, and direction was provided to staff. Council discussed one matter regarding a proposed or pending disposition of land by the municipality respecting a city property. Direction was provided to staff. Lastly, council discussed one matter regarding labor relations or employee negotiations in a matter which council may hold a closed meeting under another act, being section 35 sub 4 sub A of the Police Services Act respecting a city neighborhood, and no direction was provided. So staff first, is there any additional business to go onto the agenda? Go ahead, Brianna.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one item tonight regarding committee vacancies.
Thank you. And to Mr. Simmons?
No other items, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and council? Seeing none? I'm going to keep you here a little longer. I have a couple of things to cover. Disclosure of interest.
Yes, Your Worship, I had two disclosures during our closed session meeting. One a pecuniary interest and the other was a non-disqualifying interest in an agenda item.
Thank you. Confirmation of council minutes. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 2nd, 2020, as printed, be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that the minutes of the closed session of the regular council meeting held on November 2nd, 2020, as printed, be adopted. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that the minutes of the special council meeting held on November 6th, 2020, as printed, be adopted. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that the minutes of the closed session of the special council meeting held on November 6th, 2020, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? So that is carried. So all four sets of minutes have been confirmed. Number 7.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business.
Great, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. So we are now in Committee of the Whole. We have no public meetings at number 8 in the agenda. Number 9, we have a deputation from Mr. Kafalis with regard to 10th Street Bridge. Oh, excuse me. Gitchi Name Wikwadong Bridge. Update.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, Worship. This will just be a more of a visual and an oral representation of where we stand right now with the bridge. In terms of how much work needs to be done, it's a lot of the little stuff. It's kind of like building a house. We have our house built. Now it's dealing with all the small stuff, electrical, plumbing, putting in our driveways, doing the concrete work around it. So the big thing that happened just towards not even last week, it was the week before, is actually the paving that occurred on the east side. So we've actually got 2 lifts of asphalt down. Most of all the curb work is done, and it's all hands on deck. You can even see in the bottom picture there at the bottom right-hand side, that's actually the project manager for Luby's, who's actually has a power broom in his hand, just trying to prep everything for the approach from First Avenue east on the south side of 10th Street. The big thing is that you can see the first lift went down to the right to the apron of the bridge. And once that was done, then we were able to apply a tack coat and put the second coat all the way to the next approach on the opposite side, on the west side. Before that, we actually had to waterproof the bridge. So you can see the materials down. You can see Peter Paquette actually doing the compression test by walking on it to make sure it's done properly. So once that was done, then we were able to pave over to the second side. So this all occurred the same day. In anticipation, there'll be one more lift that goes across. So when we're talking about lifts of asphalt, on each side of the bridge, there'll be 3 lifts. On the bridge, there'll be 2 lifts of asphalt. The next big thing that's being done, and we're well into the process, is actually working on the railing piers on the bridge. Post, if you want to call them posts. There's a lot of masonry work involved around the bigger piers. So every other pier will have this nice stone brickwork on them, and it's being provided by Lead Rock, just up the road from us. It's a really quality product. We have some good local masons working on the bridge. So this is being done in a timely manner. We've got everything, you can see them working on both sides of the bridge, and those bottom 2 pictures will give you an idea of what the final result will look like. So it's very aesthetically pleasing bridge. It is a local product. The color is a bit of a gray and beige. It's very attractive and really highlights the quality of the workmanship that's going into the bridge. The big thing that we're doing that's been done too is the retaining walls on all 4 corners of the bridge. What you're seeing here is the actual northwest corner. You can see right there the harbor wall where we've actually come down with the retaining wall and filled up the little gap with concrete to make a nice finished product. It's a nice little nook. When we're dealing with our landscape architect, there'll be a highlighting. This is one of the areas with a bit of furniture and some other aesthetically pleasing items just to make it more attractive. The big thing is with these are all prefabricated blocks in terms that that's the retaining wall itself is built with these prefabricated rocks. Well, you'll see on top there'll be a cap that's not on there right now, but once we get closer to bringing up the elevations around the three of the 4 corners, then they'll apply the cap rock. And again, here's on the bottom picture is actually the southwest side, which is a much more extensive retaining wall that extends probably about 30 or 40 meters away from the bridge. On this side of it, on the south side of that, you'll see there's an old guardrail. We're replacing that old guardrail with an actual railing just to make it more visually pleasing. I mean, we really don't need the guardrail there, and we're trying to make this more of an attractive project or aesthetically pleasing by the time we're done. You'll see the top picture there is actually the northeast corner where we're not putting these, initially it was stated we put these blocks, but if you remember before, we actually had blocks there and it just didn't mend well with the existing harbor wall. We've gone, we did a redesign, and actually Peter and I came up with a design. Sorry, I'm patting myself on the back, but we came up with something that was a little more aesthetically pleasing and a little less costly to build. So we actually put a concrete retaining wall, and you can see the piers are being formed as part of the project. So when I talk about electrical, here's the individuals that are passing all the wires for the traffic lights. So they were lucky that week that we had that great temperature. It was like I don't know what you call it, like an anthill with all the people that are on the project site. We were actually thinking about not putting up the posts until all the concrete work was done, but our subcontractor to the contractor was worried that they might get damaged if we didn't put them up right away. So now, just before they pour the concrete, they'll wrap them in a Teflon wrap just to make sure they don't get stained from the splash of the concrete. So that's up. This is another process. We figured the weather was good. Let's get as much done as we possibly can and try and not push stuff off now. Get it done when you can, make it fit in. You have to take a little bit of necessary precautions to make sure it's not damaged during the next phase of, say, putting concrete work or something else. Then just do it. Make sure you get them up and not rely on the good weather the continuation of the good weather that we experienced. Again, what we had to do on the west side was actually replace the water main, 16-inch water main. It's installed, it's been tested, samples were going out. And here I'd like to Some people that we neglect to actually pat on the back is our water distribution crew is Mike Duncan and John Barry and Mark Hill. I mean, these guys are there at the contractors beckoning whenever they're available. They come in to make sure everything is done properly in accordance to what's expected from the province. These guys will drop everything to make sure they meet the contractor's schedule. They're both on site here running the test, the pressure test, are there with the contractors, making sure everything's done according with our standards. We don't rely on we have expectations on the contractor, but we don't rely on the contractor to make sure things are done right. Our staff takes that on ourselves. So this is all done. It should be connected in the next day or so. So the big thing is on the west side now is part of it is removing the old water main. So we've been going back and forth on how we want to do this. We have our internal staff who are extremely worried that when we pull out the old water main that will end up damaging the sanitary sewer main and possibly some of the services that go across the top of it. So it's either be very careful and make sure you don't do it, but you risk ended up delaying a project by making repairs to infrastructure that might be damaged due to the removal of the old water main. So we came up with a solution of grouting, leaving the water main in place and just grouting it, so filling it up with grout. It's a low yield concrete type of a product, and that way it doesn't create a cavity. And in the future, if we have to move it, we will, but we're worried about this time. And this should help speed things up a little bit. So that's the last major thing that needs to be done on the west side before paving can take place. This is the northeast corner. Again, everything has been filled in. The piers have been poured. The forms are still on. This is right beside the Channing building on the bottom picture. Again, you'll see we've taken that really high-tech method of marking things out. We call it spray paint. It works really well. On the northeast corner on the east side, right there beside the Channing's building, what the plan is, everything will be as much hard surfacing as possible just to clean up that corner. But what we'll have is a defined sidewalk and it'll be surrounded by concrete, but what we'll do is end up doing something similar to what we did in Ryerson Park and across the way here at the farmers market, is actually put saw cuts in, so it looks different. But again, it's a surface that can be maintained and kept neat and tidy. So before, we're thinking about brick, but then there's those guy wires and everything else that makes it very hard to install brick. It doesn't really come out with a nice finished product. Again, before around the building, there was an area that was semi-landscape. It just ended up with a bed of weeds. So what we're trying to do is make sure we can get rid of all this unneat, stuff that wasn't neat, and try and create it neat while applying different textures to not just have a big slab of concrete, but actually have it look like something else and look like it's a streetscaping. So it should clean up that corner pretty good. One other decision that we had to make, the whole idea is we were planning to put the plaque on this corner, just past where you see the plate tamper. There's a nice pier, nice big pier where we could have put the plaque, but then it wasn't visually appealing because we've got a couple of hydro pools. So what we're planning on doing is doing on the northwest corner where it's a nice open better area, an area that we can have our landscape architect come up with some nice aesthetically pleasing amenities to help promote the plaque location and make it more defined. It gives us a little more area to work with because of the prominency of having that plaque on that corner. Essentially, that's it. So we're pushing ahead. Everything is going as fast as they possibly can. Weather wasn't great today, but people are still working. We're still hoping, this should be open before Christmas of 2020. And we're going to do our best to get it open as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. Questions? Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Dennis. That was a good report. I just wanted to ask you about the apron that you talked about at the start. It's concrete. What's that do? Is there expansion there or something?
It's just the idea that without these aprons, if you just had it coming up with gravel and asphalt, that's where you'll start seeing it get pounded out as you come towards the bridge. So what we do is extend these concrete aprons out. They form part of the structure. And again, it's better for the approach and going onto the bridge and coming off the bridge, because that's where you always find that the areas start getting pounded from the heavy truck traffic or any vehicle traffic. Thanks.
Anyone else? Councillor Dodd, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple quick questions. I guess everyone will be more than eager to know. So we always talk about those things, those key concepts of cost, timing, and construction. So how are we looking on all of those fronts, Dennis? We're obviously clearly on time.
Well, in terms of schedule, right now, I'd say yes, we are on time. We might be a little bit early. Cost-wise, we are over. We did exceed our contingency with the contaminated soil and dealing with those structures that are unforeseen that were put in place years ago, and that's why we're trying to see where we can save some money on some other initiatives by taking some things out of the contract, doing it ourselves, as well as again not removing the pipe, just milling the road as opposed to like on the west side where we plan on doing once we fill the water main full of concrete, is that there's no need to dig up the whole road. So we're hoping to achieve some cost savings there where we're just going to mill the existing asphalt, patch what's already been dug up, and then put one lift of concrete over. So we're trying to see where we can save a few dollars, but currently we are slightly over the contract budget.
And that's all good news, because I think that's from the last time council had an update was we had that discussion about what are the key priorities. Obviously, timing is a key priority, and obviously quality was a big key quality. So key component. So those are the big things. We'd love to always have the big three, but sometimes we knew we had to get that road open. My other question was that seems to still be some rebar underneath the bridge. Do they remove that rebar, or am I just making?
Are you something that you can visually see on the side of the bridge?
Yeah, like underneath. So like I'm just thinking if someone's a kayaker or a canoer, the water ever goes down, that you can go underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
Is there still going to be rebar?
There shouldn't be anything exposed underneath the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
What you're seeing on the side is the little outriggers they're using to do what that they're using to build. Let's see if we can get that one picture. You see, like on the side there, you can see there's right along the top picture. I mean, that's what they're working off of. They're going to start pulling that stuff off as soon as they're no longer needed, they'll start pulling that off, and they have started on the north side of the bridge.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, once again, no one else? Good. Thank you, Dennis. Good report. It's good to hear we're getting close. We're at number 10, so I believe we have a question, the public question period.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I will just advise that in our procedural bylaw, it provides that questions may be preceded by a brief statement that provides background for the question, and questions are limited to a time period of 5 minutes. There is quite a lengthy preamble here, so I will try to get through it in the allotted 5 minutes. And I'm now going to read it word for word from what I was provided. Your Worship, members of council, city staff, and those watching on Rogers Television tonight. My name is Ken Jones. I reside at 6th Avenue East. As a taxpayer, I address council with an important concern and make my comments based on my nearly 4 decades with the Ontario Fire Services, much of that time as a fire services advisor and fire college instructor for the Office of the Fire Marshal for the Province of Ontario. It is my contention that the process to make a recommendation for council to approve the purchase of a new aerial apparatus for the Owen Sound Fire Department was flawed. When the recommendation was made to council, it took all of 4 minutes to approve the purchase without any questions. I do not blame council members for approving the recommendation, as I'm sure they believed the city's own policies and procedures had been followed. Sadly, that was not the case. The end result was the spending of $2.1 million, $1.8 million plus taxes of hard-earned taxpayers' money, which, in my opinion, was unnecessarily excessive, as there were opportunities to save hundreds of thousands of dollars. To be clear, I did not oppose the purchase of a new aerial. I didn't care about the vehicle design, vehicle specifications, etc., as long as the apparatus met the needs of the department and met the requirements of recognized standards. And during the process, consideration was given to the burden on taxpayers. The city's own documented policies and procedures are available for review on the city's own website. Documents include CMA 62 that states the city council acknowledges that it is responsible to provide good government for its stakeholders in an accountable and transparent manner by encouraging public access and participation to ensure that decision-making is responsive to the needs of its constituents and receptive to their opinions. Owen Sound Bylaw number 2020-010 is entitled Board and Committee Bylaw. It states that a standing committee means a committee representing one of the departments of the city, which meets regularly to provide recommendations to council. One of those committees is a standing committee known as the Corporate Services Committee. Its mandate is to advise council on matters such as fire protection. To place an exclamation mark on the proper procedures that should have been followed, I received an email from the former city manager, Mr. Wayne Ritchie, regarding committees, which included the following. Good analysis includes input and information from a number of sources, and those sources are documented so that council understands where the information comes from that they are basing their decisions on. I assure you that both Doug, Fire Chief Barfoot, and I are interested in your opinions, particularly with your background in the fire service. It should be noted that Mr. Ritchie, as city manager, never once contacted me for any information or comments. The fire chief did request information on one occasion, which will be detailed later in this presentation. The process that was utilized, which I contend was flawed, had a recommendation developed in isolation by the fire department's internal truck committee. The fire department truck committee was composed of Fire Chief Barfoot and 2 fire department members. The 2 fire department members contributed significantly, primarily utilizing their backgrounds as mechanics. The committee would have been well served if there had also been representation from seasoned fire officers and the training officer. It is abundantly clear that the mandated process was not followed for the purchase of the new aerial. The Corporate Services Committee was bypassed. Important opportunities were missed for the committee to receive presentations from the Fire Department Truck Committee and from members of the public to research, ask questions, and formulate a recommendation for council that was defensible. Mr. Simmons, our new city manager, was the first to officially indicate through the news media that the Corporate Services Committee was not utilized and noted that anyone could have addressed council during council meetings. He probably was not aware that I had a meeting with his predecessor with a request to meet before council, that the request was flatly denied, and council members were made aware of that decision. I reviewed the scoring evaluation of the 6 bidders obtained by way of the Freedom of Information process. Although all bids were deemed to be acceptable, there certainly were scoring areas subject to question. Over time, the fire chief has stated 3 areas that favored the successful bidder. Each can be seriously debated. Example 1, maneuverability, to enable this unit in being able to access tighter areas. The purchased vehicle is larger than a Greyhound bus with 2 rear axles and would not normally be considered as being very maneuverable unless the rear axles had special features, example, steerable rear axles. Example 2, the 25-year warranty was the longest. Not sure where the information came from, but I have received written confirmation from the Sutphen Corporation in Ohio that they never had a 25-year warranty. Example 3, the fact that the aerial could be relocated to a new chassis at the end of the warranty really is nonsensical. This option really doesn't make much sense, as the department in the future could end up operating an aerial that is well beyond recognized standards and then potentially having firefighters operate on an aerial unit that could be well over 40 years old. The preference for a mid-mount unit and a truck in which the aerial component could be relocated to a new chassis at the end of the warranty period was not part of the city's RFP and proved to be unfair to a number of bidders. The scoring evaluation process involved 2 stages. It should be noted that the scoring tool of all 6 bidders covered a small range, 61 to 65 points out of 100. The second reevaluation involved the top 2 highest scoring bids. The end result had the 2 bids separated by just 1 point, and it has been stated the chosen truck was by far the best for the city's need and for the cost. I may be wrong, but I believe the difference in costs for the sake of 1 point was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. His Worship Mayor Body gave his opinion to the local media, saying even if the matter had gone to corporate services, he isn't convinced the outcome would have been any different. And it's a specialized type of apparatus that council and the public wouldn't have enough expertise to change the outcome. Obviously, I strongly disagree with that assertion. There are a number of experienced retired and current fire services personnel living in the city that could have contributed to the process at Corporate Services Committee. I would suggest if the city is not interested in input from taxpayers and the entire committee structure be dissolved. The city has used the committee structure in recent months. Examples would include receiving recommendations regarding a 25-cent increase in the price of garbage tags, and another, a no-cost matter regarding the demolishing of the St. Mary's Church Rectory, yet the committee structure wasn't utilized for purchasing involving a $2.1 million fire department aerial. Recently, the matter of naming our new downtown bridge was discussed at council. Deputy Mayor Brian O'Leary said, I really think it should go to committee and go through the process. It's unfortunate the matter of spending $2.1 million for an aerial did not receive the same consideration. I received comments from a few fire services personnel who misinterpreted some materials in the local press. Some fire personnel felt that I may have inadvertently promoted certain apparatus in the 70 to 75-foot range. That certainly was not the case. To clarify this matter, I have communicated with several fire services members the following. Let me address the matter of 70-foot and 75-foot apparatus. 75-foot apparatus came into discussions when the fire chief communicated with me. It read a 75-foot ladder platform on a single axle would be ideal, but I don't believe anyone makes one. I researched this matter as it was his ideal apparatus, and as a taxpayer willing to assist, I forwarded information and a photo of such a unit for his review, which he acknowledged. The fire chief had indicated to me that his preference was a mid-mount aerial. That ideal apparatus was available early this year for $1.1 million plus taxes. What the chief did with that information was his prerogative. The matter of a 70-foot unit came from communications from the fire chief as well as a member of council. Over the past months, I've communicated with individual councilors, and since I had no opportunity to make a formal presentation before council, I put together a 47-slide PowerPoint presentation about my concerns and forwarded a copy to each individual councilor. I believe that the information I've supplied tonight clearly shows that the system to receive council's approval for the purchase of the aerial was flawed. If the city's own policies and procedures had been followed, there would not have been an issue. Commitments have been made for the purchase, and the apparatus is to be delivered in 2021. Realistically, I don't think anything can be done at this time, but I know there are lessons to be learned. For those watching on Rogers Cable, I would be interested in your comments or questions. I can be contacted at kenstel@whiteman.ca. Now for my questions. Why did the city not utilize their own corporate services committee to develop a recommendation for council for the new aerial? Number 2, who was responsible, accountable, and had the duty of oversight of the process for the purchase of the new aerial? Number 3, could you indicate to city taxpayers what lessons, if any, have been learned by this purchase? I thank council in advance for your responses. Ken Jones.
Thank you. Mr. Simmons, do you want to reply? Do you want me to do it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, I guess first and foremost, appreciate Mr. Jones submitting the item for question period and his questions, and I'm certainly I'm certain that within this process, I think a couple points should be made, and that's with the initial aerial truck was highlighted, from what I know, in a fire services fleet strategy that all of council requested back in 2016. So that's where it was first noted. It wasn't just an item that appeared in 2019 or 2018. And then from that point forward, from 2017 forward, the aerial truck, I believe, has been in every budget discussion since with all of council. And I'd probably focus on that the aerial truck, it is a large purchase. We have a professional staff and outstanding fire service with the chief leading that. They went through a very open, public, transparent process. Our procurement staff not only led an RFP, but a request for information also. The fire chief set up an evaluation committee with professional fire service members. Those members and the chief also visited one of the largest fire shows in Columbus, Ohio, prior to making any purchase, and inspected aerial trucks and equipment and got to meet with each of the vendors. So they had a lot of knowledge in hand. Ultimately, as Mr. Jones' question asks, who's responsible? I believe the fire chief holds accountability and responsibility for purchasing the apparatus that he feels is needed by the fire service with work that was undertaken by the fire strategy, and then through the RFI and RFP process, chose the right piece of apparatus for the city.
Thank you. Thanks. I think we'll keep going. We're at number 11 on the agenda, and we have no correspondence being presented for consideration. At number 12, we have a report from Ms. Coulter, I believe, with regard to options for indoor walking.
Thank you, Your Worship. At your meeting on November 2nd, Council asked staff to bring forward a report outlining ways to reopen walking at the Bay Shore as well as other options. City Council have heard public health through the course of the pandemic regarding the importance of physical activity, and you have worked proactively to support many and diverse ways for people to stay active and healthy. You kept your parks and trails open. Playgrounds were opened as soon as public health guidelines allowed. We now have 2 ice pads operating at the Julie MacArthur Regional Rec Center and opened 1 pad in the summer long before many communities. Our campground operated this summer. We had youth camps in hockey and soccer. We supported the YN reopening and supported a plan for outdoor music. All of this has been immensely appreciated by the public. Recall the province granted hospitals the right to use facilities like the Bayshore Community Centre for a temporary hospital, and the city signed an agreement with Grey Bruce Health Services, and a 75-bed and infrastructure was placed at the Bayshore Community Centre. At a minimum, this facility will remain in place until December, when we have committed to revisit the issue with our partners at Grey Bruce Health Services, along with Dr. Ian Era. If council would like to move forward with a program, a walking program at the Bayshore, we recommend that council would need to amend our agreement with the hospital in terms of the exclusivity, liability, as well as insurance. What would a walking program look like at the Bayshore? The safety and security of the field hospital makes it different, and the walking program would need to be different than it was in the past. We would suggest a program with pre-registration and security. It would operate, at least to start, Monday to Friday with 3 one-hour sessions with time in between for cleaning and sanitation. Staff would meet those who were pre-registered at the door. We would do screening with them. The facility would otherwise generally remain closed. We would allow 20 walkers in each one-hour session. We would have 20 chairs in the concourse spaced, and we would use security to monitor the area while people are there. In terms of the cost, depending if we can use part-time or full-time staff, the cost would be between $1,175 and $1,600 a week for city staff, and about $650 a week for security. So the cost for a month would be about $4,700 to $6,500 for the month. If selected, if council wanted to move forward, we would prepare and submit a COVID safety plan to public health for review. In order to have time to set everything up, review the process, we estimate that walking could start around December 1st. You'll recall one of the major obstacles to allowing walking is the event that's shown on the screen in front of you. There is a lot of infrastructure in the building at this time to support the field hospital, and we've worked with the hospital to confirm that we can move that event at a minimal cost. In terms of, today I would share with council that I was contacted by Mr. Doug Bumstead of Bumstead Financial. If council's decision would be negatively impacted by the financial impact of the decision, he has made a generous offer. Mr. Bumstead and other generous sponsors have committed $4,000 for each of 4 months, or $16,000, to support a walking program at the Bayshore. It's certainly an extraordinary offer, and it represents the generous spirit of this community. In terms of other options, Heritage Mall would allow public walking in the hallways 7 days a week. There are washrooms available there and no cost. The Family Y offers a variety of health, fitness, and recreation programs, and the walking track is usually open when the Y is open. It is a membership-based program, and roughly a seniors member for the month is about $45. The Y does have financial assistance available, and there is a confidential application process, and the amount the person pays is based on their income. Your Worship, the recommendation is that staff receive the report and that council would provide direction. I would note, if you want to move forward with a walking program, part of the recommendation should ensure that we negotiate an appropriate amendment to the agreement with Grey Bruce Health Services.
Thank you. Councillor Merton.
Through your worship, I would like to make a motion with the following points. First, that staff proceed to amend the agreement with Grey Bruce Health Services. Second, that staff proceed to accept the very generous offer of Mr. Bumstead. In addition, that staff, in consultation with Grey Bruce Health Services, Public Health Unit, the public who have contacted the city, implement the appropriate staffing, screening, and health and safety protocols to reopen the walking track at Bayshore Community Center with the target of early December. I would request that staff monitor this program for 1 month for usage patterns and any concerns that may arise, and bring a report back to council for consideration regarding any modifications that may be required.
Okay, thank you. Other discussion? Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you. That's very well done, Councillor Merton. I just want to, first of all, thank Doug Bumstead. That's very, very generous. It's a lot of money, a lot of money for one corporation, and that's very much appreciated. I just want to make sure we talk about the concerns here. Like, this isn't just about the seniors being able to walk. You know, we have told, well, first of all, we need to do whatever we can for our kids, and we certainly do whatever we can for our seniors. We have told minor hockey, you cannot use the Bayshore because it's closed. You have to use the rec center. We've told the seniors, you cannot use the Bayshore, it's closed. You should walk at the mall. They didn't accept that. And so they've pushed back, and that's okay. But we may have other concerns. If minor hockey comes back and says, well, you know, now that you've opened the track, and I know you told us it was closed, but now it's open, we want to do workouts on the track. So can we book certain times for all the different teams in minor hockey? And so that's my concern. The other one is, pre-COVID, we had between 100 and 200 walkers. And so I'm really interested in seeing what those numbers are. And that's why I'm glad you had in your motion that we would revisit this in a month, because even if Doug Bumstead is forking out the money, if we have 15 people walking or 20 people walking, the numbers don't make sense. So I will support your motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Mayor Body. The usage of facility staff, what is it, what work may it be that they will not be achieving if they're reallocated to supervisory and cleaning roles at the Bayshore?
Right now, staff from the Bayshore are redeployed for the most part to the Julie MacArthur Regional Rec Center to cover shifts there. The ice pads are very busy, and we have had to add 1 additional staff per shift to cover the cleaning requirements due to COVID. So we have had 1 staff person at the Bayshore 3 to 4 days a week doing all the facility checks. Things like toilets still have to be cleaned and flushed, the water run, the systems checked when people aren't in the building. So we'll schedule staff so that these shifts can be covered, but we'll schedule them at the Bayshore.
And we'll have to backfill at the Julie MacArthur Rec Center because their demand will be unchanged.
Yeah, the demand won't go away at the rec center.
And so do we have that staff already hired, or are we going to have to hire part-time staff to fill in?
We do have some part-time staff, and they will likely receive more hours.
Okay. I guess I have a couple concerns, and the deputy mayor touched on a couple of them. The big one for me is equal opportunity. And as it is, or always has been, the Bayshore wasn't essentially open through the day, and people could go at their own time. And the difference with hockey or some of the other sports is, and I've seen it, I've been out in some of the arenas, and under the control and discretion of the coach, working alongside facility staff, the players, the participants, the coaching staff, everybody is brought in at one time, and you're maybe granted 15 minutes to be dressed, 15 minutes, you must be vacated from the building, whatever our exact protocol is, I'm not sure, but you have to work within these restraints. And I guess I have a concern if somebody comes to me and says, but I work in the morning and I always walked at the Bay Shore in the afternoon, so what are you going to do for me? Doesn't really seem to be a fair opportunity that it's only for people that are able to make use of it in the morning. And I just think there could be a lot of security concern with people just showing up, not at those specific times, because there isn't a coaching model at play here. And I have a concern of any costs that are over and above what, I mean, that's a fantastic sponsorship. That's extremely generous, but I do have concerns with costs. I'm sure the YMCA, which was closed for many months, would certainly benefit from any increased membership that they could have during these times, as well as the mall. Boy, any person that's able to make use of the mall and perhaps make a purchase while they're there and benefit some of those retailers that were closed for several weeks during this year, and particularly going into the Christmas season. I think that's a bona fide opportunity and use for people to take advantage of. It's an equal opportunity throughout the day for people to go there. So I've got some concerns with the limiters of the hours that are placed on just the 3 specific walking times, and thou shalt be able to work within those timeframes, because that's not equal for everybody. It's not recognizing everybody's opportunity. And obviously then I have the concern that it's essentially, if it's in use, it's a hospital. It must be a sterile environment. If any of us were ever in a hospital and they lock down visitation and say no visitation, they do it for a reason. So I guess I have concerns with the sterility of the facility as well. Thanks.
Any others? Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Worship. Just through you to the director, a couple of questions that I had. Some have already been asked or concerns have been expressed. How do you monitor the walkers to know that they remain on the path? So that's, I don't know if you can answer that or not.
Through your worship, walkers will be restricted to the concourse area only, and we will put some physical barriers in place because there are a number of pieces of infrastructure in the stairway areas. We would hire security to monitor people there. When we haven't fully developed the plan, but the thought is people would pre-register. They would be greeted at the door at 10 to the hour by staff or security. We would check who's there. They would have conditions of use. They would be invited to change their shoes and then proceed to walk on the understanding that they can walk, take their shoes off, and then exit the building. So it wouldn't be as free-flowing, certainly, as it's been in the past. It would be based on a first-come, first-served basis and open to all people. And so we would have security there to monitor that.
Okay, so is anyone using the Bayshore now?
Through your worship, the hospital was amenable to allowing hall bookings. It is fairly easy to segregate the halls and the washrooms from the arena bowl itself. So we have had those. We have each day had the attack staff in their office. Our staff meet them there, let them in. They conduct their business, but they're not open to the public. They're doing curbside pickup only at this time.
Okay, I too had concerns of the fairness when others have been told they can't use it, and also concerns of the sterile environment, because this facility could be used by outside hospitals to send patients this way if they're overloaded, I understand. The coats and the boots, you said in the concourse area there would be chairs. So each of those chairs would have to be wiped down after someone uses those, and the concourse is the upper portion at the end. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's see. The donation that's been presented is extremely generous, and I wouldn't underestimate that at all. But I wondered, it certainly doesn't cover all of the costs, but now that you've mentioned there's security as well as staffing and cleaning and all of those things that have to be done. And I wondered if the same offer would be open to some money towards Y memberships for people to walk at the Y, if that same donation would be available to them if they wanted to join the Y or something. I don't know, but that's a question that would need to be asked. And if not, is there any way that the walkers can pay the difference of the money from the donation that would be like just a nominal fee to be able to walk in there? And the limit is 60 people per day, correct? When we're hearing there's normally 100. Yeah. So that's another concern in the times as well. Thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
I appreciate the comments that we've heard about fairness, and it's certainly a maxim that we apply to everything we do as a council and as a city when we try to create and develop things for people. But you know, that fairness maxim, I think, is for different times than we're in now. And again, I made this comment last time. You know, things are not normal. So I think that applying the normal principles is maybe not, you know, it's not the way to go. I'd love to open the building to absolutely everybody. If we can open the building to a few people who really need it to help maintain their physical fitness and mental health, then I think we should do it. I do wonder, Councillor Merton's motion says report back in a month. If it's not going to open until December 1st, we have a meeting on the 14th, and our next meeting is January 18th. So I wonder if you'd just like to revise that to the January 18th meeting, just for ease of reporting, so we're all on the right page. The other thing I wondered about, and I may have missed it, where is the money going to come from the city's perspective then? Where is our share of this going to come from?
Through you, Your Worship, it would, the city's portion would be part of our Bayshore operating costs. And certainly Ms. Allen has indicated that 2021 will not see the same flow of provincial support in terms of recovery dollars, and that we will be responsible for covering the costs that we incur.
Okay. The other thing I wondered was, does the motion need to contain an exit clause? If all of a sudden there's a great need for the hospital to be used, do we need to have something in that motion that says, you know, the moment that's needed, this ends? Just a question, because of course, we're seeing the numbers go up all over the province. We've seen a staggering increase in Grey Bruce just in the past couple of days, which is still nominal. But the fact of the matter is numbers are going up. I would say there's a higher possibility that facility is going to be needed in the next 6 weeks probably than there has been since it was put together. So I just want to be sure we've got the T's dotted and the I's crossed.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question was more, we're all aware that public or physical and both mental health is extremely important during this time. But my question was, when we reached out to public health and the Grey Bruce Health Services, what was their take on this proposal? Were they in favor of the proposal, or did they see some challenges with the proposal when we asked those organizations?
Go ahead.
Through your worship, I don't want to put words in the mouth of Mr. Gary Sims or Dr. Era. I would say as a whole, public health has supported opportunities for municipalities and looked to ways to work with us to make sure that people had the opportunity for recreation and to enjoy outside. So whether that was getting our playgrounds open or working with us to support the opening of the rec center. In terms of the hospital, that staff has been extraordinary to work with in terms of, you know, when we came back to them and said, look, could we facilitate some hall rentals? They worked with us on that. And they're certainly, they understand that the Bayshore is a community center and they understand the impact on the community of having the facility there. And they certainly have been really cooperative when approached.
John? Okay, John, go ahead.
I assume that nothing will happen unless public health signs off on what we're doing, to speak to the councillor's concerns about, which I understand, Councillor Grigg, about possible sterility concerns. At first I thought, boy, we're spending a lot of time on this. And then it occurs to me, we are so hungry to get back to normal, if I could follow up on what Councillor Thomas said. And I actually think staff should be commended, and obviously Bumstead and whatever group he's getting together, for trying to get us close to normal. I know my in-laws use this place all the time. It becomes a place of friendship. These walks become the only thing you can do in winter for some of them. I appreciate there's other options, but it's where they make their friends. And it seems to me if there's free money, basically, and it sounds like it'll be a very modest expense for the city, if at all, because it seems to be basically part of operating expenses, I say let's go for it and try to get back to normal as close as we can.
Go ahead, Pam.
Thank you, Worship. The clarification regarding if the Bayshore is needed to be activated as a field hospital, that the walking would cease is certainly appreciated, and I think it would certainly add clarity, but that's the intention. I also wonder if Council would consider as part of the motion if we need to do an amendment to the agreement with Greybury's Health Services, and our goal is to get walking going by December 1st. If Council would, and looking at the clerk, but if Council would authorize or delegate the authority to sign that agreement to staff in the interim, given that we don't have another meeting. Well, I guess we have one November 30th, so we could either, we could do it that way. Does that work? Okay.
Through your worship, we could, we have a couple options. We could amend the delegation of authority bylaw to provide that authority for both the signing of the agreement and the closing of the walking track, should it be necessary. That would be the most formal way to do it. The bylaw wouldn't be able to come forward till the next meeting, or you could do it by resolution.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I hadn't turned it off last time. Councillor Tamming, I appreciate your comments. However, I think it's extremely important for people to realize this is not a social time. This is for your health and well-being. That you may go there to meet your friends, but you're not supposed to be socializing. This is a distancing, etc.
If I can maybe comment before I'm going to go back to Councillor Merton to finish up. These are strange times, and we know it, and we know we all have to compromise, and we have been compromising. We have to continue to compromise. So this is not as easy a decision as maybe possible. It's pretty important for our community to have the sort of mental health to be able to get out and exercise. And yes, there are options at the mall, and that was sort of made me at the time lean that I would rather they go to the mall than into the Lumley Community Center, for the simple reason that we have to protect that facility, both physically, security-wise, and cleanliness or potential virus. So that's pretty important. However, this money kind of helps tip it for me. I'm kind of with John here. I sure hope people that are walking get to talk to each other and they don't have to pass each other in the night, because part of that mental, what we're all going through is the ability to see one another, keep our distance. Yes, keep that, that's so important to keep our 6 meters, or sorry, 2 meters, but you still have to allow some socialization and be able to laugh at each other and have some fun from time to time. I would suggest that we don't paper this motion so tight that that we're making all the decisions at the council table, in a sense that it has to come back to us every time something changes. Clearly, if they get one patient into a bed down there, which is possible, then it's all abruptly coming to an end, and quickly. We all know that. I know what I was going to say. When I used to go public skating, I had to show up at a period of time that I could get there, and either I could get there or I couldn't. So it's a matter of fairness. That's the time. The other thought that trying to get kids in and out of a dressing room is because you're worried about kids running up and down stairs, et cetera, chasing each other, throwing boots, mitts, all that stuff. I don't think these adults that are going to be walking during school time are going to be chasing each other up and down the stairs and throwing their boots and their mitts and all that stuff. I think we can kind of count on people's responsibility to have respect for what's going on in these times. And I could be wrong. Maybe they're all going to start running up and down the stairs chasing each other. John, you'll have to ask your in-laws about that if they're going to be doing that. But I think this is the right thing to do with Mr. Bumstead and his organization donating the money. That kind of tips it, allows us to get security in there, get it cleaned, et cetera, to maintain it without dipping into what may result in debt or running out of money. I'm searching for the word opposite of surplus. Deficit, there we go. So this, I think, let's move forward, let's try it, but let's not get it so tight that staff can't make a decision. They should have the authority to be maneuverable as we go through this. Those are my thoughts. Back to you, Carol.
Through your worship. So the friendly amendment about the timing is well taken and certainly could be incorporated. And if I can make an amendment to the current motion, that staff implement a communication process with those who use the walking track. Should the access be closed due to the immediate need for Grey Bruce Health Services to use the field hospital, or a future access to this facility is restricted through the direction of public health?
Madam Clerk, sound good? Okay. Everyone else understand the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's carried. Thank you. Next, I think, is Ms. Allen with regard to the beverage supply agreement.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an update to an existing agreement. We're currently in the 3rd year. The recommendation is that in consideration of this report, that Council authorize Mayor and Clerk to sign the amended agreement with Coca-Cola. I just make one correction. That would be the Treasurer to sign the amended agreement with Coca-Cola, as that is who they are seeking. I have provided in the report a somewhat extensive background just to remind Council of the history of our sponsorship agreement and how we sort of got here, the RFP process that we followed, as well as the previous contract that we had. However, as a result of our most recent contract negotiation, or RFP, Coca-Cola had come forward with a financial proposal that was very fixed. There was a set amount for capital and a set amount. They had based those fixed contributions on an estimated volume that we would generate. Certainly, COVID has had a part, but even before COVID, our actual volumes were not meeting the estimations that Coca-Cola had generated their estimates on, or their funding on. So rather than terminate the agreement altogether, they have recommended, or they have proposed, a somewhat modified agreement which is completely dependent on volumes. So as you can see in the summary, in the first year, because of COVID and their closing of facilities, our estimated revenues are in the $6,000 range. Going forward, using our historical volumes, they're closer to 10,000. And certainly if our volumes do increase, we will benefit financially from that as well. The 2021 budget anticipates allocating $7,500 to the Thompson Art Gallery. That is consistent with the amount that has been allocated to the Tom in the past. And any other amounts received, so an estimated 5,000 roughly, will be set aside in reserves to be used at the discretion of our Manager of Community Development, Marketing and Events.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Happy to move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Kate. Back to Ms. Coulter with regard to 18th Avenue East.
Thank you, Worship. On October 19th, you had received a report regarding an irrevocable buyback option on lands on the east side of 18th Avenue East in the industrial park, which you had sold. Council directed that we provide notice that we were invoking the buyback as it had been 3 years almost since the closing. The required notice was provided. Since that time, the buyer has requested that Council reconsider. The city solicitor advises that with the agreement of the city and the buyer, you could extend the agreement of purchase and sale for an additional year. I would note that since the closing, the development team had no inquiries. There was no pre-circ application, no site plan approval application. During the COVID time, Council did continue to approve site plans. There was also 2+ years prior to the pandemic where approvals could have been sought. The goal of selling industrial land by the city is really to create development and employment and avoid land speculation, and it's still my position that that has not happened here, and we would recommend Council receive the correspondence and deny the request for an extension.
Great, thank you. Councillor Tamming?
I have no trouble moving that request or recommendation. I think I'll speak to it in a minute.
Go ahead and speak to it now if you wish. You've moved it.
It's very fair of Ms. Coulter and her department to give this kind of time lag to a purchaser of land. And I agree fully about her comments regarding discouraging speculation. We want action with these lands, and that hasn't happened.
Councillor Gregg, was your hand up or maybe just got covered?
It just got covered. I was just going to move the motion reaffirming this council's previous decision.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Report from Junior Planner. Are you doing that as well, Pam? Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure Jacqueline's watching at home, though. The Community Improvement Plan is a planning tool that's provided to municipalities under the Planning Act, and it really is a tool that promotes revitalization and placemaking. It supports tourism, business investment, and economic development. And for the last 6 months, planning staff, together with Council, has been working on updating your Community Improvement Plan. Staff consulted with Community Services Committee, Accessibility Committee, Economic Development and Tourism, as well as DIA on the draft CIP, and we did a mock budget priority exercise with a couple of these groups. We also held the mandatory public meeting on September 28th. We received comments from the County of Grey as well as the Province of Ontario. The CIP has 2 types of programs, and I have a summary on the screen in front of you. In terms of how we came up with the financial allocation, we have a grant of $20,000 from the County of Grey. In 2020, there are some CIP commitments that are falling away that create some budget room for the new CIP. And then you have the previous commitments to the facade program and the heritage property tax. So you are dealing with operating budget next month. So I don't I hope not to get into a big discussion about budget tonight, but you'll see the priorities as they're being presented. But the day to discuss that is really with the operating budget. Tonight, you're asked to really consider and approve the plan. So we'll just run through the different programs. So there's two types, as I mentioned, the citywide incentive program. So the first one is a design and study grant. And staff are recommending that the program not be funded in 2021. We would monitor that and look toward 2022. The development charges rebate, as you know from the recent update to the DC bylaw, that is covered within that bylaw and doesn't need to be activated. It will stay in your toolkit should you want to use it in the future. Surplus land and building grants, there's no capital or operating budget required there. The Brownfield Financial Tax Incentive Program has been a really important program. There's no actual budget allocation. It's funded by the increase in the taxes on a property. The tax increment equivalent grant, staff are not recommending that program be funded in 2021. And again, we would look to future years. The Heritage Property Tax Rebate Program, certainly very supported in our consultation with committee, and recommending as your norm that that would be funded at $15,000. A new program, the Property and Landscaping Improvement Grant, would be funded at $10,000. Accessibility Improvement Grant funded at $20,000. Now to the programs that are just in the downtown and harbor area. So vacant land tax assistant, again, that would be a tax increment finance program. The facade and structural improvement program financed at $20,000. Startup space leasehold financed at $10,000, and then the vacant building expansion and conversion grant at $20,000. Before I get to the recommendation, I just want to recognize the work of our planning staff. Our junior planner, Jacqueline Eatsy, worked under the direction of our manager of planning, and I think they did a tremendous job on updating and preparing this community improvement plan for council. And I'm happy to recommend, your worship, that council would approve the new community improvement plan as it's satisfied that the requirements of the Planning Act have been met and the plan is finally prepared and is suitable for adoption. You would direct the city clerk to bring forward a bylaw to adopt the plan, and you would direct planning and heritage staff to update the existing and prepare new program guidelines for the implementation of the new financial incentives for endorsement of Community Services Committee and then council.
Great, thank you. Councillor Thomas.
Thanks. I just want to compliment staff on a great plan, and I will move the recommendation. I think it's got some exciting new categories that we're really going to be able to leverage in our community and do some good with.
Thanks. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to jump the gun before operations or the operational budget, but moving forward, there's a lot of great programs that this is speaking to. So I guess my question would be, if it does get all approved at operations or operational budget, what would be our goal and what would be our strategy to get that out there to make sure that all the businesses were aware of these opportunities that they could apply for?
Through your worship, certainly a robust communication strategy will be required. I hearken back to the early days of the facade program where I often did breakfast meetings to encourage downtown businesses to apply under the facade program. So hopefully some of the sort of suspicion of these programs isn't around, but we'll certainly use social media and different sort of lunch and learns, maybe videos. Planning staff will be able to do some creative things to promote these different programs.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Gregg, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Body. I'm just going to follow the segue from Councillor Dodd. He set me up. I'm going to do some horn tooting right now, or some promotion on one of these items that I see in there, and I'm quite keen on seeing the addition or the landscaping and property improvement grant. One of the, I guess, improvements that could be done by property owners would be permeable driveways. And I like seeing that as, it's an initiative that beneficially wise, it's got real impact as we're talking about climate change mitigation and adapting to to, you know, heavier rains and various things that Mother Nature's throwing at us. Here's something which may help mitigate just the amount of storm runoff from people's asphalt or concrete driveways. Anytime you're able to include a permeable surface and help offset some of that higher discharge into the stormwater system, it's a benefit to the city's capital infrastructure requirements. So I think that's one program right there I see in this new document, which is a fantastic document. And I hope that there is landscape companies, some contractors, and residential homeowners. I've seen some of these types of driveways already done in the city, and they look great when you see them done. So there's just one small thing that I hope is there's some uptake on.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried.
Thank you, Worship. Greene County Council has endorsed the new Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. It is anticipated that 16 lower tier municipalities throughout Grey and Bruce counties will approve it as well. Local action teams will begin tackling priority areas like addiction and substance abuse, mental health, crime prevention, housing, homelessness, and poverty. And I believe this council will have a presentation November 30th. Grey County Council supported Schedule 1 of Bill 218, which seeks to protect businesses and individuals from civil lawsuits relating to COVID-19. That said, County Council is asking the provincial government to reconsider Section 2 of Bill 218 related to the removal of the ranked ballot option for municipal elections. For the Board of Health, just before I read this, I want to remind Council that Dr. Ara sends me this health update Saturday or Sunday prior to our council meetings. So what I'm reading here is directly from Dr. Ara and no one else. 224 cases to date, 33 active cases, 0 cases currently hospitalized, 0 deaths, and 0 facilities in COVID-19 outbreak, 0 schools in outbreak, and 0 daycare in outbreak. In schools, managing 1 COVID-19 investigation of a case associated with Bruce Peninsula District School in the municipality of Northern Bruce Peninsula. Concerning trends, significant increase in the number of cases locally and provincially, significant increase in the number of close contacts of confirmed cases. And I'm going to read this one that he always, or the last couple of days, he's been highlighting. We have been seeing a deeply concerning trend of significant increase in the number of cases locally and in the number of close contacts of these cases. These findings are indicative of fatigue related to following public health measures. It is important that we refocus our energy on the basic measures that keep us safe, the same ones that got us through the first wave in the spring. Thinking of the 3 W's, washing hands frequently, watching your distance, ideally 6 feet, and wearing a face mask unless you're 6 feet apart like we are. Then it's up to the individual. Ongoing actions taken at the Grey Bruce Health Unit. We're receiving and reviewing reopening plans for locations closed due to COVID-19, including inspections as required. The infectious disease team continue with case and contact management, reporting and responding to COVID-19 related calls. And contact tracing exceeds provincial targets with 100% of all cases contacted within 24 hours. The team continue to ensure essential health, public health activities not related to COVID-19. So those are the 2 reports, and this is not in writing, this is me talking. I just want to mention that on Thursday at County Council, Dr. Ara did his presentation. And I just want to mention that sometimes if there's more cases, people get a little panicky, like we had 10 the other day, or we have 6, or we have 4. And sometimes people, they get the calculator out and they start doing the math and start working percentages, and that kind of happened at County Council. And I just want to remind everyone, we're not authorized to do that. We should always listen to what Dr. Ara says. He always makes himself available. If we need a question and answer period, we can arrange that through the city manager. He always makes himself available. But let's make sure that we just stick to what Dr. Ara is recommending. He's our guy, and he doesn't mind giving us the time. And with that, Your Worship, I'll move receipt of those two reports.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. So this is in favor of receiving those reports. All in favor, carried. Thank you. Number 13, consent agenda.
Through you, Your Worship, on the consent agenda this evening is a report respecting 2020 Owen Sound Celebrates Fireworks. Ellie's Pro Edge Skate Sharpening, located at 1666 3rd Ave West, received their business license, and a full listing of the information package is available at 13C.
Councillor Thomas?
Yes, Your Worship. I'm wondering if we can pull item 2 out of the correspondence package. That's the letter from Prince Edward County on proposed changes to the Municipal Elections Act. I'd like to vote on that separately. I'd like to make a motion that the mayor send a letter of support on behalf of council regarding that motion.
Okay, so hold on, Councillor Dodd, if you can, I think you've got the motion, so it would be save and accept item 2.
All right. Moved by myself that City Council receives items 13A to 13C, save and accept 13C2 on the consent agenda dated November 16th, 2020, and further the recommendation contained in item 13A be approved.
So all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I guess you kind of said it already, but you can say it again.
Well, I just think it's important that we support this. Most councils in the region, I think everybody's been inundated with emails from various councils regarding the change to the Municipal Elections Act. And, you know, my own perspective, regardless of how I feel about weighted voting, I really believe that the province should be consulting the municipalities before it makes a change like that. You know, every year we go to AMO as a council, most of us. We talk at AMO about the importance of the municipal-provincial relationship, and I think that, you know, this is just such a blatant example of stepping outside of that and just disregarding that relationship, and I really feel that we need to send a letter from the mayor on behalf of council supporting this motion.
Discussion? Seeing none. All in favor then? That is carried. Thank you. We're down to number 14. The only thing there is minutes from the Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Worship. As chair, I'll be brief. There are no motions flowing from it. I'd just like to highlight 2 fundraising actions that we're engaged in. The first is a grouping of 7, and we've identified 7 local and emerging artists. A very young and talented Emily Kiwagishig, and of course, Willie Waterton and Tony Miller, who is one of Owen Sound's Black residents who has painted amazing stuff lately that has been featured at exhibitions and so forth. These and other local talented artists are now on sale. If you just go to the auction site online with the Tom, the auction ends on Friday. You can post your bid on paintings by any of these 7 artists. And again, they are stunning paintings, and we just urge people to participate. The proceeds are split between the Tom and the artist, and what better thing can you get your friend for Christmas? Perhaps only one better thing you could get them is a calendar. I just remind everybody that we have 500 calendars. Many are selling quickly, and we just urge you to take a moment, contact the gallery, and get one of these group of 7 calendars for you and your loved ones. Just a big shout out to Tom and Edna Burry, longtime supporters of the arts in this town, and they were kind enough to fund the cost of production of the calendar. So all sale proceeds from the calendar, which is only $20, tax included, are able to go to the gallery. So we're quite excited about that. I just want to tell everyone as well to please pop in and introduce yourself if you haven't already. If you're a member of the community, to Aiden. our new curator and director of the gallery. I can say that COVID has cost us many things as a society, and one thing it has cost the gallery is the opportunity to formally introduce her at a nice reception. That will happen down the road. But Aidan is an outstanding curator. She's turning out to be a very energetic and committed member of our cultural community, and we invite you to do that. Finally, last but not least, I just want to say that we as a gallery committee at the Tom, we are at long last talking expansion of our physical plant. We have a vault in the basement that is overflowing. People in the know that. I think people who aren't in the know even know that. It's so notorious. We have a group of 7 paintings that have rarely seen the opening of an exhibition. And we need more space. We see visitors come, they enjoy what we have. I just saw some last week. But clearly within an hour, they've exhausted the 2 rooms that we have, and they are hungry for more. So we just say it would be great to get more of a cultural destination going here and more of a cultural resource for our kids, our artists, and our ratepayers. We are miles away from any decisions and any recommendations, but we are forming a steering committee. That committee meets, I believe, next week. And all I would ask is get excited and stay tuned. Your Worship, that is my report from the gallery.
And with that, you're moving the minutes for approval?
Just moving the minutes for approval. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So at number 15, we have no postponed matters. At number 16, we have no motions. Notice was previously given. Discussion of additional business. Ms. Bloomfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are looking for volunteers to sit on our city committees. Public participation is important to the municipality as it provides public input into the decision-making process. It's also a great way to get involved in your municipality and gain committee experience. The time commitment is manageable with approximately 1 meeting per month. The city's website provides information on our various committees, the meeting dates and times, and our current vacancies. The application form is available on our website or can be picked up at the clerk's counter at City Hall. Applications are due this Friday, November 20th, and are to be submitted to the deputy clerk. If individuals have questions about our committees, do not hesitate to contact me or any member of council.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Brianna on committees? No? Okay. I've got a couple of items. First of all, I want to thank the On Sound Legion Branch 6 for organizing the Remembrance Day ceremony again this year, as they do year after year at the held at the Cenotaph, and they do a small service up at Greenwood Cemetery as well. I think they really deserve our appreciation this year for having to make the tough decision and compromising during COVID. Sure, it wasn't easy telling veterans, so many of them that are elderly, they have memories of war. They were unable to come down and be there this year and had to participate at home. And I think that was a really tough decision for the Legion executive, and we thank you very much on behalf of citizens for decisions made and how well it was organized. I also want to thank the Canadian Veteran Freedom Riders Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol, who held a modified Remembrance Day service at Corporate Robert T. James Mitchell Park. This group is really good at maintaining that park and putting up flags on appropriate days and to have mast, and they do a great job looking after veterans throughout the area. So kudos to them. I did have some comments in COVID, but Deputy Mayor O'Leary hit it exactly what I was going to say. For everybody, first of all, watch your distance, try and keep your 2 meters. If you can't, then get the mask on. Wash your hands often. Should add a 4th W. Get out and walk. Harrison Park's great. The roads are clear. The mall is still great, and of course, we'll have an opportunity after tonight coming up at the Bay Shore. So I think it's really important that we tighten up our discipline. I don't know. I'm as guilty as anybody in the community for I always wear my mask when I'm out, but there's times that I maybe think that it's going to be okay, and I do quick little things that without thinking, and we all have to tighten up that discipline as if it's March. And think about what we're doing with regard to distance and see if we can get that number back down to 0 cases a day again. With that, I think we're down to number 18. Well, go ahead.
My apologies, Mayor Body. I should have brought this up for additional business because we have some very, very important events coming up this weekend. One being the Festival of Northern Lights, which will be opening on the 21st, and also the Kiwanis Christmas tree sales. Kiwanis Christmas trees go on sale this Friday. Hard to believe, but they will be up this Friday, as well as the Kiwanis Santa Claus Parade will be followed on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. Different than normal, so it's going to be a very static parade. So it'll be, if you have a vehicle, you'll be able to drive through about 20 floats or so that are there, and if you do not have a vehicle, there will be public transit for you. But a lot of great things coming this weekend. Once again, being socially distant, but we have some good things coming this weekend to hopefully bring up that holiday spirit.
And keep going. You've got the motion that the committee rise. No, yeah, no.
I've got it, but I don't know. Yep. Moved by myself that the committee of the whole rise and report.
Great. All in favor? That's carried. Into the formal session, motion to adopt.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that the action taken in the committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried. Notices of motion. Does anyone have a notice to give for future meetings? Seeing none. Bylaws.
Through your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute an agreement with Stone Town Construction Limited respecting East Bay Shore Road, Gray Road 15, sanitary pump station construction and road reconstruction, phase 1. Bylaw to execute a site plan agreement with Georgian Yacht Club for property located at 2475 3rd Ave West, and a bylaw to amend traffic bylaw number 2009-075 to remove parking prohibitions related to closed schools.
Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gregg, that bylaw numbers 2020-125, 126, 127, and 128 be passed and enacted.
And all in favor? And that is carried. So that completes our business for tonight. I've got 8:28 p.m. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.